So thank you all for coming and thank you for having me. So I am Joakim Bjurström. I'm a Swedish Kata geek, proud Kata geek, and a passionate TWI trainer. And this presentation will be on the subject of TWI, or about Kata, sorry. How many of you are familiar with what Kata is? Do we have any Kata practitioners who are actually doing? What was that? You can't hear me? Okay, good. So any practitioners, did I miss that? Anyone who's doing it? You're doing some of it, okay. So tell me if I'm going too deep or too shallow on this, and please ask questions as we go instead of in the end, because then we're going to have missed that learning opportunity. So this is what I thought we would talk about. First of all, what's TWI? Okay. Training within industry, which was the basic 3 programs that the US developed during the Second World War. Those programs then ended up in Japan and then ended up as lean. So if you talk about Kaizen and you scratch off the Toyota surface, you find 3 basic TWI programs developed in the US back in the 40s. Those programs have re-emerged and are now being used globally again, and they add a lot of value. Good question, thank you. Good. And this presentation will be not so technical, but it will be about people. So there's a people angle to the whole thing. And then we'll look through what Toyota Kata is and how we see or view challenges. And then by the end, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. So just framing this a bit, saying that it's all about people. In TWI, training within industry, there's a program called Job Relations. And it came about because as a supervisor, I need people to quickly come in, do a job correctly, safe, and conscientiously. And to be able to do that, the people that I bring in, or the people I train, they have to trust me as a leader. And one of the statements in Job Relations is a supervisor gets results through people. Hence our company is called Business Through People. Because nothing is going to change unless the people change as well. Does that make sense? And there's nothing in a supervisor's job that doesn't involve or touch people. Because the supervisor himself isn't doing all the jobs. So just framing that, there's also a principle of good supervision taken from Job Relations, and that is that the supervisor gets the people in the department to do what the supervisor needs done, when it should be done, in the way the supervisor needs it done, not because the supervisor wants it, but because you want to do it that way. So once we get people to do it because they want to do it, that is good supervision. So this is a hard angle on people. So the background about Toyota Kata is that Mike Rother, if anyone knows him, he wrote the book about value stream mapping back in late 90s. He did what everybody else did. He went to Toyota as a continuum of Toyota Way. So when Jeffrey Liker wrote Toyota Way and ended his research, Mike took over and continued that research. And that ended up with him discovering that we're looking at the wrong thing. He was doing the same thing as everybody else. He went to Toyota and observed what they're doing. And as he himself says, his guides at Toyota finally said, "Do you really want to see a Kanban card one more time? What's in there? Please, we can go and have a look, but what's the point?" And so they never really said that, but you could see it in their eyes, like, oh shit. And then a penny dropped down because his guide said, wouldn't it be more interesting if we looked into why did we develop a Kanban card in that place? Why was that countermeasure making sense in that place? And how do we think to get that into place? Boom. Something fell down in Mike's head and said, we're looking at the wrong things. Instead of looking at all the visible stuff that Toyota is doing, let's look at the invisible stuff, the way they think and lead and manage people and develop people. And all of a sudden, there's lots of good things down there that hadn't really been evolved and really well explained. Everything that is in Toyota Kata are in the lean books back from a long time ago, but no one has really packaged it in a way that makes it easy for people to understand. So I think that's the reason why Kata, since the book came out in 2009, actually took off and gave us something real. But it turns out that a lot of us have taken the wrong angle on lean. So we take lean tools taken from Toyota. If Toyota is doing that, that is a good thing. Let's copy what Toyota is doing. But the problem is, if you're not making cars, or if you're not in that production environment, that countermeasure that they are using doesn't make sense. So have you, in your factories, have you ever deployed 5S as a general tool in the whole? Been there, done that. Sorry, I'm a lean consultant, I've done the same thing. I usually say that I didn't know better and I needed the money. Sorry to say. Because the problem is, or the problem isn't that I don't have my tools or my kits or information readily there. My problem is something else. So why is management spending time on 5S? What's the bloody point for me? And if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to resist. Right? So finding the right solution for the right problem, that is basically what Toyota Kata is about. And it's a practice routine for developing scientific thinking. Scientific thinking is not something new. Deliberate practice is not something new. But putting it together into a routine, that is somewhat unique. So deliberate practice and scientific thinking together. And the term kata comes from the martial arts. Is anyone doing karate or jiu-jitsu or anything like that? So a kata in martial arts, if you've seen people training karate, they're in the dojo, they're doing the same movement over and over and over again. And what's the point with that? Muscle memory. And what's the point of muscle memory? You don't have to think. So when you're actually under attack, you do without thinking. That means you can be a lot quicker because you're on automatic. Same thing as when you drive a car or ride a bike or in the water swimming. So it's all about having an internalized behavior that is based on scientific thinking. Once we get there, the rest will follow. So it's a practice routine. It's packaged and sometimes dealt with as a method, but it's actually more of a routine to get to scientific thinking that encompasses or frames all the knowledge we have. All of a sudden it makes a lot more sense, and we can use that knowledge where it's needed, when it's needed. So that's the difference from just implementing lean tools. So what is scientific thinking then? And I don't know you guys, but think I know roughly what you work with. Are you scientific thinkers by heart in your line of occupation? Would you say that you're scientific thinkers? If you break it down into the little piece, let's try and see. Let's try and find out. So we have a need. There's a definite need. And I'm going to try things to find that out, how that works. How can I fulfill that need? Let's find that out. So by heart, that's what we want people to think. Instead of saying, here's a challenge, we have a customer need, we have to do certain things, and people go, impossible. The scientific thinker goes, there's probably a few obstacles in the way. Let's find out what that is, because that is what we need to overcome. So at the heart, that is what scientific thinking is. So we actually compare an expectation of what happens when we do something. We compare what actually happened, and when we compare those two things, if reality after the test isn't what we thought, I must have learned something. Does that make sense? So that's why we always need to draw out an expectation before we do take a step or do something. In Lean, this is most of the time called Pdca thinking. So that is the Lean term for scientific thinking. I like to use the term study, so Pdca instead of check, because what we actually want to do is once we've taken a step, we observe a lot of things. Or while we're doing that step, we observe closely. And those results that we get out of that study, that is the zone where we actually learn, and then we adjust based on that learning. And depending on what that step was, I either learned a lot or a little, but it's going to change the course I'm taking. Because if I learn something new, I have to act on that learning. So Pdca is a movement that has to be, and we've said this for years, it needs to keep spinning, but it's based on a learning. If I haven't learned anything, it's going to be difficult to take the next step. Then I'm not scientific thinker anymore. I'm randomly doing stuff that I hope will solve my problem. So the next step, my next P in Pdca, has to be based on a learning from the previous step. So what Mike did in his research is, from that moment of aha, he started to decode. He started to see patterns of behavior. So if you go to Toyota and ask, are you doing Toyota Kata? They're going to go like, what? I have no idea. So Toyota Kata is an invention of Mike Rother. I think that's important to say. That's his interpretation of that pattern. And he could see this pattern repeated, depending on what sensei and what people he was talking to. It could have small variations, could look a bit different, but underneath, if you decode it, this is practically what they're doing all the time. So important to remember, this is Mike's depiction of an underlying pattern. So the first step, it's a 4-step method, easy to remember. And the first thing we always do is we need a direction. We need somewhere to go. That needs to be a customer-focused challenge or direction. Everything we do is based on need, customer need. If the customer doesn't need it, want it, don't spend time on it. Understand the direction or challenge, so we need to go somewhere else. Step number 2 is understand where we are, our current condition. But we look at current condition based on where we need to be. So it colors our reflection of where we are. And we don't study current condition to start solving problems, not at that point. We observe current condition to understand what are we doing and how are we thinking at this point. Once we know where we're going and we know where we are, we want to set up a mid-term need. We need to be able to do something in a shorter period of time. Usually a challenge, the direction, is a 1 to 3 year goal or target. Target conditions could be 2 weeks away, 3, 4, 5 weeks, maximum 3 months. But you have to be pretty good at this to set up a 3-month target condition. So that's the burning platform. That's what we're working on right now to get to that condition. And the key word there is a condition. That is something that we can do, something that we can film. It's not a target itself. Those are two different things. A target is an outcome of a condition. Does that make sense? And finally, we try to close the gap between the target condition and where we are through Pdca steps. Someone said this morning, wouldn't that be trial and error? Well, pretty close. But that is where we apply Pdca thinking, always taking the next step based on what we learned from the previous. So those are the four steps of what might call the improvement kata. So there's 2 katas that we use. So the improvement kata, this is what the people are doing. So an improvement team would be applying these 4 steps. To support that, there's also a coaching kata. So there's a coach involved to develop the team and the learner that I'm currently coaching. So there's a repetitive pattern of my coaching that drives the Pdca cycles. So without the momentum that the coach gives, eventually the Pdca cycle will stop. If no one asks questions for what you've learned and what your next step is, or you're working systematically and scientifically, you will deviate and start inventing something else. So the coach's role is to develop the learner, so he or she is a systematic and scientific thinker. So in that respect, Teoda Kata is a people development scheme. We are developing next generation of leaders. And this has long-going roots back. In Japan, they have this almost like a buddy system. It's called senpai, I think, where you always have a mentor, and it's well embedded in the Japanese society. Here we try to do this more formal. So in the ultimate world, my coach is my closest boss. You are pulling me on my way or guiding me on my way. So I know what to learn, when to learn in order to meet future challenges. So our ultimate goal here is to have people who say, this is a rough challenge. That's a really difficult challenge, but bring it on. If we have people who can take big challenges, and they're accustomed to take small steps and learn from every step, we have a platform for change management. So 2 different katas. And that also means that we need to fill in the organizational structure with some new roles. So at the heart of this, there's a learner who is helping the team develop and get to where they need to be. There's a coach supporting the learner, but there's also a second coach who comes in and secures the system and looks at the coach's development curve. So there's a 3-level structure that all drives the correct and right behavior. And by repeating the same pattern over and over again, we get to a place where this is internalized and people are beginning to solve bigger and bigger issues. So I said when we observe the current state, we look at it from the point of a challenge or direction. Not too long ago, I was involved with a company heavily relying on they're basically a sales company. They also manufacture stuff, but at heart, they are salesmen. So I get into a clash with because I'm a lean guy, so I talk standardized work and stuff like that. And the sales director, he just blows up through the roof. Sales is not a process you can standardize. There's no way. This is a craftsmanship. It's a human relation thing. So if you talk about standards, you're killing our salespeople. Get off. Go away. You're in the wrong place. I was fortunate enough to be able to come back, and I realized, well, okay, standardized work is not really working. So the problem was, once we started measure salesmen doing their work, the same thing could take either 3 or 10 minutes. Depends on who's doing it. The worst part is the price that they offered could also vary quite a bit. And lead times as well. And just half of the people were using the right tools. Others had invented their own tools. Does it sound familiar to any of you? But standards, no way. So looking at that, the problem here, these are just symptoms. These are symptoms of how people think. It's not a process thing. Well, it is as well, but it's mainly a how people think problem. So the problem was actually this. So the paradigm, everybody knows what a paradigm is? The paradigm is, we can't standardize sales, it's craftsmanship. Leave it alone. It's never going to change. So in order to move that process, it's not about looking at the process. It's about looking at you and then say, how do you think? Explain that to me. And what's the danger? What's your defense against standardization? Well, it's killing our creativity. Okay. So what if we simplify the work for our salesmen? Would that be okay? And he goes, simplify is good. Yes, simplify is really good. Okay. So if all salespeople are able to do the same thing in the system, would that be good? That would be super. Okay. So now we're making progress. Observing current condition out of how people think, not what they do. That's when we can reach real change. That makes sense? And unless we change our view of the world or our way of thinking, the process is going to go back to its normal. We can improve for a while, but it's going to go back because we're still thinking the same way as we've always thought. So finding that red here, that is what we're looking for in current condition. The rest is just symptoms of how we think, either as individuals or as a group. And paradigms, every organization is full of paradigms. All those things that we cannot do, and we know we cannot do those. Do you have any of those? That's impossible. We can't do that. We know we can't do that because. But there's a customer on the other end saying, well, you need to. Sorry. It doesn't matter what you think you can't do. You have to do it. Otherwise, we're going to go somewhere else. So finding paradigms and ways of thinking, that is what we really want to see. I've talked about the challenge, and if you go in and read any of the books about Toyota Kata, it's going to be a lot about the challenge, and you're going to see a lot of examples of production processes. Mike is still a production guy at heart, but it's that part is rather uninteresting, to be honest, because the process is just a vehicle. That is something that that is an outcome of how people think. So the first thing that happens when we put up a challenge saying this process needs to behave differently, the first thing that pops up is a people challenge or a people problem. Because the people down here in current condition are not the same people as up in our future state. So the people will need to be able to do different things than they do today. So how do we bring people on a journey so the process can actually move? It also puts the finger on systems. So we get a system challenge. As soon as we say we're going to change our processes, it's going to be within a different system. Or the system needs to support that process in a different way. So I always say that the challenge is a multi-dimensional thing, but we often treat it as a one-dimensional creature. And then it becomes complicated because there's so many things affecting the process or the development of the process. So what we usually do is we separate these things and then we say, okay, so we have a people challenge. What does that consist of? If we break that out, we can develop a target condition for people. We can also pick out systems challenges, look at that separately. Then all of a sudden it becomes a lot more simple. And for us as coaches, our main role is to simplify, 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 to find that simpleness behind it. What I see, what I meet, is we have a lot of defense saying, well, our process is so complex and complicated, so we can't do that. But if it was that complicated and complex, people wouldn't be able to do their jobs. So there is a level of simplicity. The only thing is we can't see it, not yet. So that's our role, to help people see simpleness behind complex things. I did a job instruction training where we instruct people in how to do a job correct, safe, and conscientious in Finland last week. And during the week, one of the guys said, "You are actually taking my process down to elementary school." And to him, that was a criticism of the course. I took it as a compliment. Because if we can start seeing simpleness behind complex, then we can actually get somewhere. It's easy to do something difficult, but it is difficult to do something simple. So this kind of behavior is actually what lies behind a lot of Toyota's success, and it shows how Toyota actually manages people on their way to greater success. So when we look at it, when we establish a target condition, the first thing that comes up are obstacles. We all know that lean is about eliminating waste, right? That's our main ambition. But what we've done is we've taken waste elimination as our process of improving. And for Toyota, it's not actually what they're doing. Because they're setting out a goal and say, we need to get to that place over there. And then they do trial, error, Pdca. They get over to this new place, which we think is more efficient. Then they look back and say, wow, the amount of waste we eliminated by taking that step, that is cool. But they were not standing over here to start with and say, let's eliminate waste and hopefully end up in a better place. That is not what they're doing. That's a misunderstanding of lean. Obstacles are the real things that are in our way to become better. So introducing 5S, if the problem isn't 5S, you're wasting time because you have other obstacles. Resources, skills, tools, information, the real stuff that's in your way. Those are the real obstacles you want to find. Those are the things we improve and work on. Waste is a symptom of obstacles in our way. And how do we find obstacles in a good way? We move. We have to move. So there's obstacles for me to get it from this end of the room to that end of the room. The only way I'm going to find those obstacles is by walking toward that. I'm never going to find them standing over here, anticipating that that table over there, that's probably going to be difficult to get past. That doesn't make sense. That's a gray zone. I don't know what's out there. So my only way to find obstacles is to do my first Pdca experiment. The biggest obstacles I have will show themselves when I move. It's coming right at you. Sorry. So if we're obstacle removers instead of waste hunters, we become more deliberate, we save resources, and we work on the real stuff that the people also know that they need to overcome. Makes a lot more sense. So far, if you look at it this way, it might seem like a problem-solving method, which it's not. What it is, it's a people development thing, because what we want to do is expand people's knowledge threshold. A knowledge threshold is a basic human reflex. We always do an anticipation of things. We say, okay, I can do this, but I cannot do that, as far as I know. So our job is to get to people, go beyond that knowledge threshold, learn new things, so they expand that knowledge threshold and realize I can do more than I think. And if we could do that, we can also do other things. So it's finding, as a coach, finding people's knowledge threshold and push, 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 push. Because that's where we develop, and that's where we learn. We also strive a lot better than we problem solve. It's a lot more satisfying for people to strive for a specific goal. If we look at this image here, all the black dots, that could be waste. So if I'm standing here, there's so much waste I can eliminate. But that's going to be very random. And I'm not sure if that actually takes me to where I need to be. But setting up a target condition, it actually saves me a lot of energy because now I know where I'm going. And once we reach that target condition, a lot of those other dots, they might be gone. And I don't need to actually work on those. So it saves us a lot of energy and a lot of time, resource, to strive for a specific condition rather than waste hunt. Learning could be a painful, or is a painful process. A lot of times we take learning as a creative, pretty nice, fluffy process, but learning is actually pretty difficult. And it hurts when you go into what I think is true, turns out not to be true. It's not always a cute, nice thing. But that is when I go into the yellow learning zone, that's where I develop. That's where things happen. So we need to push people into deep water where it's uncomfortable. Learning is uncomfortable. How much time do I have, Peter? 4 minutes more? Let's do a simple exercise. If you clasp your hands, please. hands together. With your thumbs together. And now you change grip. So the thumb changes, goes on top of the other. If you stick to that, that feels wrong. How does that feel? Weird? Okay. Any other sensations? There's one worse. If you keep that posture. Even if it feels really awkward. You stick to that. To me, and actually I can feel a tingling in the back of my head. Because I need to look at my hand and it needs to go in. I want you to feel that. That's pretty cool. That's neurons connecting to new neurons that they're not accustomed to. The brain hates that. It takes a lot of energy. That's where we learn. So what we need to do to become true scientific thinkers is embrace that feeling. This feels weird. That is excellent. Perfect. Because now we're doing something that we haven't done before. We're in a gray zone of learning. We're heading for something that we know we need to do. And it feels uncomfortable. Brilliant. Because if you're comfortable, you're in the same place you've always been. You're going nowhere. It has to be uncomfortable. So we script the coaching, we script the 4 steps of the improvement Kata so that becomes a pattern. So everything we do is repeating patterns over and over again. And that is because the human brain is a pattern-seeking mechanism. It is always looking for things that make sense. And as soon as something doesn't fit the pattern that I'm used to, something is different, I shut off. Or I spend energy on something that I shouldn't be doing. So having leaders and coaches ask the same questions in the same manner every time, over and over again, that creates a strong culture of scientific thinking if you ask the questions right. I think we'll skip this. So there's only one way of doing this. I can stand here and try to convince you this is a really good thing. But no matter how much slides I have or what I've tried to say, doesn't matter. It doesn't change behavior. The only way to change behavior is by practicing, practicing, practicing. Repetition is the mother of all learnings. And when we start to do repetitions and learn, we will develop our skills. So I think I'll stop there. Any questions or concerns? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Go ahead. Any questions?
Thank you for a very good talk. I
Thank
think
you.
I had a few aha moments, so I hope I get a point for that. No. I was thinking about, because you were saying that you're repeating and getting into muscle memory, this process. And is that to trick the pattern-seeking brain that feels uncomfortable when learning new things? Or is it, what's the main concept behind getting into muscle memory?
So the main thing there is to, when I'm about to strive for that new target condition, my brain is not occupied with what's the steps I need to take to do that, because that's internalized. I know what to do. I don't know how to do it, what my next step is, but I know I need to take a step.
So it makes me a little bit more comfortable with striving for something. Okay.
So once that it is internalized, the process of development is internalized, I can now focus on what's my issue and what's a good step to take, what would be my next Pdca experiment. So it sort of releases me from the pain of remembering how would I go about this, and so I just go on automatic.
Relieves anxiety. Has it anything to do with like growth versus fixed mindset? It really triggered me in that sense.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does, yes. So pushing your knowledge threshold, that is growing your universe, yeah. That's a good thing.
Good. More questions?
Not all at once, please.
Okay, thanks. Well, this method sort of comes from studying sort of improvements in production, I guess. You know, at least if you read the book, it's very much based in production. What about product development? We're all basically here for product development. What would you say, or what's your experience? Is it a suitable method also for development?
I would say it's a universal way of thinking and striving. So you do as much striving as they do in production. You have challenges from customer needs that you think this is going to be impossible. So it's a people growing scheme, not a problem solving method for manufacturing. I think that's really important. It's all about growing people. So next time you come to your team and says the customer wants this, they go, okay. So the process we're working on is irrelevant. So you have to look beyond the manufacturing part of Mike's books.
Well, I agree actually, so that's fine. I just wanted to hear your opinion on it. But what about A3 problem solving versus Kata, and how do they relate? What do you think?
So everything you know about lean or tools or countermeasures that you have for problems, please keep those. They're all sort of, we're not replacing anything. That would be a disastrous mistake. I've had that discussion in the other conference. All of a sudden, Kata comes in as the next buzzword, and we throw everything we know overboard. Now Kata is going to replace everything. No, it's not. So if you look at the 4 steps of that ladder there, it's actually a pull system for countermeasures. So it pulls for every countermeasure tool we have in our box. The thing is, when do you use what tool or countermeasure? So we're not randomly just putting things in, but here we have a need, a specific need that needs this countermeasure. We're going over this obstacle. What in my toolbox might help me overcome that obstacle? So the bigger your toolbox is, A3 or problem solving, the easier it is to get over obstacles. Does that make sense? So it's not replacing anything, it's the thinking behind. So in A3 thinking, there's Pdca thinking built into that. So it's a meta skill of whatever you apply. That's what it is.
So as you get on the journey of implementing lean in your R&D department, how would you start the Kata kind of journey? Because I guess you need to start training some people to actually coach the coach and get the whole ball rolling. So you need to start somewhere to be able to actually trickle that down the organization and get that momentum going, right? So how would you recommend that you can start?
This is a good question, thank you. What it's done for me in my lean journey is that because we are aiming for a challenge, top management must be responsible for the challenges we have. That's your job. And what we've missed a lot in lean, at least in Sweden, is that lean is something people on the floor are doing. That's frontline doing lean. As a manager, I have important stuff I'm doing over here. And those two, the lean efforts are not connected to what the company actually needs. So what we're doing is we're trying to put that connection back together again. So in a perfect world, you would start with top management being and put them in a position where they are learners, because they need to challenge their bias as well as anyone else. And if you can't understand what it is to be a learner, you can't be a good coach. So we have to put everybody in the system through a learning curve. So start from the top and build that capability down. That's the ultimate world.
The last question.
And that's something we've been discussing, that can be hard to get top management involved. And like you said this morning, Michael, about, we have to start somewhere. Can I use this tool without calling it Kata in my daily work? If I am a project manager with a team, can I use the principles to my benefit without
Of course.
it? Right?
Of course.
What would be the most easy one to start with? Because I'm keen on not, at least in my organization, new buzzwords, people just roll their eyes,
Yeah.
And I'm more keen on just using the tool without really putting a label on it.
To me, that would be perfect, because we do quite a lot of that in our trainings. We put you through, we show you, demonstrate how that works in your real life. Do you like that? Yeah, that was good. Well, it's called Kata. There's a book about it, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, do you see obstacles, and are we developing your skill of overcoming obstacles? Perfect. If you want to call that scientific thinking or PDCA, excellent.
Okay.
I think we're fed up with buzzwords in this community as it is, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Joakim.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, you will receive an obligatory duck to play with, and you can make a lot of experiments in the bathtub.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we have a break of half an hour before the last sessions. And the last sessions will be hands-on sessions in here with engaging and leading professionals in lean process and product development with Arnaud Heremans and Sanna Winding. And in Slacked 1, we'll have the dental floss workshop with Bob Melvin. So at 3:30, we'll continue.